Hi. So, I did my other two Deltarune fan theories. I did my theory on Gaster, and I did my theory on the player and Chris, who I believe to be the angel in the night. The thing about Deltarune, though, is that it's a big story. It's going to have a lot of plot threads. Any one of our theories could be wrong, and any one of our theories could be right. Even a theory that we think there's so much evidence for could be wrong, and even a theory we think is entirely crackpot could be right. So we need to consider everything. And when we disagree with each other, we need to be respectful about it. We need to not say, you dumb, you dummy, dumbo, dumb. There is one Deltarune theory I think is incredibly dumb. And I think we'll be talking about that, as we get to move on. But I think you'll see why it's dumb and why that's my one exception to that rule. But for the most part, it's just, you know, if a theory has enough evidence for it, we need to not dismiss it as just, people being stupid with the theories they make. Because any one of these theories could be true. And, you may not see enough evidence to believe in one theory. You may believe in a different theory, you know? Um, and, we just gotta be respectful. We gotta wait. And if our fan theories turn out to be wrong, we shouldn't let that affect our enjoyment of the game because Toby knows what he's doing and he's going to create a good story no matter what, even if it's not the story we were hoping for. So let me get into why I think Chris is the knight. I think Chris is the knight. Um, I gave a lot of my reasons in the video I did, but one reason I didn't give is that it almost feels intentionally hinted at with the ending of chapter 2. It feels like this is something Toby Fox knew people would think and wanted people to think. Um, and, it's okay to write a red herring into your story. It always is. The main thing about a red herring is that usually when you do it, you want the actual answer to be something that's more satisfying, or at least equally as satisfying, to what you just teased. And if it is the sort of thing where it's like Toby Fox is teasing a joke at the beginning of chapter 3, like he did with chapter 2, I mean, that's fine. You know, I still think it will be a good story either way. Um, but it feels like with the themes Deltarune's trying to get across, um, I think a finale of us, the player, versus Chris and the Delta Warriors would just be an amazing finale. It would just be an amazing final boss to me. Um, and I really could not see any other plot twist being nearly as satisfying as that. Um, that being said, I know I could be wrong about my Chris as the Knight theory. I think a big thing is a lot of people think the Knight and the Angel are working together. I never got that. I never got that impression, especially because the roaring is referred to as Hell's roar, you know. So that seems to put the Knight as like a counter to the Angel character, and I believe the Angel character is referring to the player because that's what it was in the original Undertale. I know there's some debate on whether or not in the original Undertale it was actually referring to Azrael or Chara, but I think the player has always been a very good candidate for the Angel of the Prophecy in the original Undertale. So I think it's very possible that's going on with Deltarune as well. It was more subtle to build up to that reveal. Um, so yeah, that's kind of why I think Chris is the Knight. In regards to other people being the Knight, right? Like Alvin. Alvin is a character that a lot of people think is the Knight, and I can see where they're coming from, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Basically, the Alvin theory is that Alvin is trying to bring back his father, Gerson Boom, from the dead using the hammer. Like he takes the hammer, which is supposed to represent his dad's book series. He puts Gerson Boom's dust on that, and then he makes a dark world to bring his dead father back to life. Um, I think that is a very possible theory. However, it is also possible that he does want to bring Gerson Boom back to life without actually opening the Dark Fountains himself. Because it is entirely possible he just does not know how to open a Dark Fountain. Because we didn't know how to open a Dark Fountain. In Chapter 1, we didn't know how to open a Dark Fountain. So it is something that could be very secret to these people. Um, Now, that being said, if this is the case, Alvin would obviously know what a Darkner is, and I think the reason he would is because of the card Castle Dark World. So, if we go by what King said, right, the lore was that the Lightners created us, they gave us purpose, and then they abandoned us, and now we don't like the Lightners no more. But then the Knight showed up, and we all love the Knight. So, I think it's entirely possible that Alvin was one of these Lightners that interacted with the card world, Dark World. And that kind of taught him what Darkners were, and it's possible he began to think, maybe through the creation of these Dark Worlds, maybe I can bring my dead dad back to life. Um, and here's the thing: he could do that without necessarily being the knight himself. Because if he just knows that dark worlds have been opening up around town, and I find it a little bit hard to believe that Chris and the Susie are the only ones who know about these dark worlds. I mean, I can imagine a lot of people just in general don't know, but I find it a little bit hard to believe that no one anywhere knows that these dark worlds are opening up. Um, so it is possible that Alvin just knows that the dark worlds are being opened up, and so he wants to put the hammer in a specific place at a specific time so that a dark world will appear and Gerson Boom will come back to life. Um, that's what I think. It is entirely possible that he could make a dark fountain. I don't know. Um, and it is entirely possible that he's just straight up the knight. But I wouldn't know, right? In fact, if his motivation is to bring his dead father back to life, I think he would have done it by now. If he knows how to create dark fountains, I think he would have created a dark world and brought his father back to life with like through the hammer, you know, because multiple dark worlds have opened up already. But his dad is still a hammer in his grave, so like yeah, you know. So that's why I don't think Alvin is the knight. But it is very possible, and I wouldn't be surprised. Papyrus Knight. Papyrus and Sans Knight, I think I'm going to talk about at the same time. I think this is a really good theory. Um, Basically, so my theory about Sans and Papyrus is that these are the Sans and Papyrus from the Undertale universe, and they use the machine to travel dimensions to try and find Gaster, who's like their lost poppy. And so either one of these characters creating dark fountains to try and find Gaster is a very plausible theory. Um, that is a very plausible theory. The only thing is, they're not in the game for very long. They don't seem to have a pronounced presence in Hometown, like they did in Undertale. And I think that's mostly because the Skeleton Brothers are here um, just to sort of give good vibes from people who played Undertale. Like, hey, look, it's Undertale's fans. And I think they will tie into the lore of Gaster as well. I don't think they're the knight, but that is a very good theory and very possible. I just think, Deltarune feels like the sort of thing where its story needs to stand on its own, even if these Undertale elements are in the background and are important to the story. Um, so yeah, that's why I don't think they're the knight. Any other character in Hometown just does not seem like the kind of character that would be creating Dark Worlds. But I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong. Rules card being the knight. No. Okay, maybe, but I just don't think so. And one of the reasons I don't think so is that the king seems to be subservient to the knight. Like the knight is the king's boss. Rules card is not the king's boss. Rules card is lesser dad. He has less authority than main dad, right? So I don't think Rules card is the knight. It is possible. It very much so is. He's definitely gonna be appearing more and more throughout the story. I think we will have to have a fight with him in every chapter from now on. Um, but you know, I don't think he's the knight, especially because I do believe the knight is directly creating dark worlds, like through opening the fountains. And as far as we know, Darkners cannot open uh, dark fountains. It is possible he is doing some shenanigans to get people in the light world to make fountains for him. I just don't think it's rules card. I think the knight is going to be a character who is a little bit more serious than rules card. Um, Although you know what, if Toby Fox goes for it, I'm here for it. All right, I'm here for it. So those are my ideas on the knight candidates. Um, Now let's talk about Gaster because I think my Gaster theory is not the full story. It's definitely not. When I made the Gaster theory, I wanted to get to like the solid facts about the character and try to make a theory from there. Um, because a lot of people just jump straight into making him the final boss. Uh, I do believe he is going to play a lot of endgame significance, though. I don't think he's going to be the final boss. I think he's going to be the final secret boss. So with the secret bosses, right? Um, they're all characters who seem to express the idea of freedom, in some way, like a perversion of freedom, like too much freedom, right? Spampton basically tried to do the Flowey thing, where he tried to become an angel, right? Um, and he tried to steal Chris's soul to do that. That's very Flowey esque, and he is a sympathetic character. We see his backstory and stuff, but he's still doing like evil things, and he even encourages the weird route, the Snowgrave route. And then Jevil is just like a chaotic, a chaos. He's just fucking chaos incarnate, and they had to lock him up for it. He probably killed someone. Like he might not have killed anyone, but he definitely caused problems with how much freedom he was exercising. So, yeah, that seems to be the case. And so it is possible that Gaster is not just this lost character with a very sympathetic backstory. He, of course, would have a sympathetic backstory, but that would not necessarily excuse whatever actions he'd be doing throughout the series. I do believe he is the secret final boss, and I just think because of the soul colors, right? It seems as though the secret bosses are the ones who are going to try and change our soul colors. So Spamton changed ours to yellow, right? If we get to the final chapter and we get a secret boss fight with Gaster and he turns our soul blue, that would make a lot of sense. Now, considering the weird route, it is possible that if Toby Fox continues with the idea of the weird route, the final boss of each chapter will actually be the secret boss. And so, Gaster could be the final boss in that sense. He could be the final boss of the weird route. And he could take on like this Sans like role in the final moments of the weird route. Maybe not with the same personality, but he'd be doing stuff. I do believe Gaster is the one who called Spamton on the phone. I do think that because one of the Addisons said the sound on the other end of the phone was garbage noise, and I didn't see it in my playthrough. But if you try to use the phone in the dark world, you'll get this jumbled audio that was used in like the Entry 17 cutscene. Um, and it's Gaster's voice basically. So I mean that right there basically confirms that it was Gaster who was on the phone with Spamton. What is he trying to get out of this? We don't know. He might literally just want to get out of the dark world. Um, I don't want to assume too many motives until we actually get to the Gaster boss fight. Because his motivations could be anything from getting out of the dark world to obtaining obtaining full power, you know, obtaining like absolute infinite power, like Flowey did. It could be anything along those lines. Um, I just think the final boss, like like the final main boss, would be Chris. That just makes sense. That makes sense to me. Um, but you know, Gaster is going to play a role in this story somehow. Woody theory. I hope Woody theory is correct. Look, I know, right? So if you don't know, Woody theory is basically the theory that the chapter 3 secret boss is going to be a legally distinct version of Woody, and we're going to fight him on horseback. And some sections of the theory also go into the idea that the friend sprite, which is that face like in the void with like the purple and yellow eye. Some theories go into how that character is like physically inside this legally distinct Woody's body, and is like controlling his actions or something. I kind of hope Woody theory is correct, just because I feel like that would parallel Chris and the player really well. And here's the thing, right? Toby Fox is not above references, right? He made a bold and brash reference. He sampled Patrick's voice, right? Spamton, I think, might even be a reference to Spam Lee from Wreck It Ralph 2. That one might not be the case, but it is possible. Um, Jevils' voice lines are taken from like this weird clown thing. Um, these like weird clown stickers or something. And Flowey quoted a McDonald's commercial. So if Toby Fox does make a character that's like a cowboy doll with a pull string, um, and a lot of the phrases he says during the boss fight are Toy Story quotes. Um, and he makes the music legally distinct enough from Toy Story, even if it does sample from it a little bit. I think he could pull it off. Toby Fox can do stuff like that. Here's the thing, though. It has a very high chance of not being true. Either way, I love Woody Theory. I love Woody Theory. I love it, but I would not be surprised if it didn't come true because that one seems like the most direct of the references in the game so far. Toby Fox could pull it off. I just don't know if he's going to. You know. Um, Another theory is Flowey theory. This is the theory that the Chapter 3 secret boss will be Flowey. This is actually a really good one. And if Woody theory isn't true, I'm hoping Flowey theory is true. And interestingly enough, I did see some fan art of the internet of Woody with like Flowey coming out of his chest and having Mike's face on it. So if Toby Fox does a crazy move where both Woody theory and Flowey theory are true, that would be crazy. The fourth dimensional chess bomberadian. Oh man, he's funny like that. He's funny. Basically, the theory states that since Toriel throws Asgore's flowers into the trash every time she gets flowers, and the Dark World takes place in Toriel's house, in addition to the TV world, maybe those flowers in the trash can would manifest themselves as a secret boss, and it'd be Flowey. It'd be based on Flowey at least. That I think has a very high chance of coming true. And if Woody theory is not the case, I do think it's going to be Flowey theory. Um, Go watch a video on Woody theory. That's one of those crazy theories that I think has a chance to be true, and am kind of hoping is true, just because of how crazy it would be. Toby can do it. I know he can. Um, so other theories. Toriel hates gay people. No. That is a bullshit theory that has zero evidence. And I think you're just mad that she's religious to start. No, seriously, right? Like, you make these theories about Toriel not liking Asgore anymore because he gay. But, like, freaking heck. Like, come on, guys! You're just profiling. You're just stereotyping at this point. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. You're not. You're not helping. You're not helping the discourse on the series. Now, if it is a thing, right? If it is a thing where she divorced Asgore because Asgore cheated on her, that I think is a theory that has a high likelihood of being true, but that doesn't mean she's fucking homophobic. Guys! Come on! Guys! This is the theory I was talking about earlier that's so dumb I had to make fun of it. You guys aren't helping. You guys are just not helping. You got no bad. Go sit in the theorist corner and think about what you've done. Go sit in the Sans' Nest Gregory Robot corner and think about what you've done. You're worse than Matt. You're worse than those theories. At least Pat was having fun. Yeah, so I do not respect that theory at all. I do not respect that theory at all. But that does bring up the question: why did Toriel and Asgore get a divorce? And I think I will briefly talk about how I think the reason they got a divorce was probably after the day Des went missing. And Asgore used to be the police chief, right? But he wasn't able to solve what happened to Des. And it is possible that, on the night that Des went missing, Chris was with them. So Toriel was really concerned that Asgore could not solve this case when their own child was in danger. That's why I think Toriel divorced Asgore. Now, is that a fair divorce? I don't know. Um, because we don't know the details of that event. Asgore could have been a coward and not have, done what he was supposed to as chief of police. But it could have also been a sort of thing where it's like the case was impossible to solve. Because what I think happened to Des is that she got stuck into the dark world. Probably in the bunker dark world. That's probably when we're going to have to go find Des, is whenever we go into the bunker. And, and, you know, um, that's basically a case that you can't solve because dark worlds exist apparently, and that's weird. Um, so yeah, so that's why I think they got a divorce. I don't think it had anything to do with Rudy. That being said, Asgore does tend to give flowers to everyone. Not necessarily characters that he's interested in, just anyone who's like a friend. He gives flowers to his friends. I don't think it's anything romantic. It could be. It could be. And, I guess that's fine. Um, because he gave flowers to Alphys, and I know that Alphys and Asgore was something that was lightly teased at the end of Undertale. I think they went more heavily into Undyne and Alphys, but they did tease Asgore and Alphys a little bit. So, it's like if Asgore is giving flowers to, since he's single and he's just giving away flowers to people he's interested in, like, I guess that's fine. It makes sense. Um, but it could also just be like a sign of friendship or something. Speaking of things that are signs of friendship that y'all take as romantic, Krause. Krause is not a ship that the game is leading towards. I know we were all concerned. You were all concerned about Krause. I don't think it's romantic in the slightest. I really don't. I think they're just, yeah. I think the game's trying to portray their friendship as cute. I think they are. Don't get me wrong, but like, you see a cutesy friendship and your mind immediately jumps to romance. That's a problem. That's not a fault of the game. That's a fault with, like, us. That I really don't think the game is going towards that shit. Okay, I need to get out of the toxic sort of you dummy I need to get out of the you dummy mindset, because I mean, like, that was appropriate for the gay theory. Here it's like, yeah, people were genuinely concerned that the game was leading towards Krause ship, which would be weird. Of course, it would be weird. Uh, However, I really don't think that's the case. I really just think that their friendship is portrayed as cutesy, and it is possible the swan ride is a reference to, like, romantic swan rides or something. But I think they're just portraying their friendship as cute, because, like I said before, I do believe Rousey is Chris's imaginary friend, that's based on their sibling, and in that sense, I think it's just supposed to be a wholesome friendship. Like, Christmas is their brother, so they have Rousey now, and Rousey's like their brother. Um, Another thing is, I don't think blushing is inherently romantic. It's more so, like, embarrassed. You know, if you feel embarrassed or something, you'll blush. That being said, if the game does go in that route, uh, I'm hoping that they portray it as a not good thing. You know, I'm hoping they portray it as like something wrong with Chris's mind or something. Or alternatively, it could be something where it's like, oh, Chris has no feelings for Rousey, but us, the player, just decide their actions, and so that's another one of those moments where it's like, oh, Chris is forced to make problematic actions. Yeah, it could be something like that. Whatever. I do not ship Krause. I just don't. I don't. I think it's unhealthy. I think it's unhealthy for very obvious reasons. Um. So, other theories. I think that's most of the theories. Uh. Oh, chess theory. Chess theory. Right now, I'm going to say that I do believe in chess theory, and I could be wrong, but I do believe in chess theory, right? So chess theory is basically the idea that the final bosses of each chapter are going to descend in order of they're going to descend in order of point scale on the board. So of course the king has the most points, the queen has the second most, then you have the rook, then you have the bishop, then you have the knight, and then you have the pawn. So, with that theory, it would basically be that chapter 1 is king, chapter 2 is queen, chapter 3 is rook, chapter 4 is bishop, and chapter 5 is when we're finally going to meet the knight, and then chapter 6 we're going to fight some weirdo named pawn. So, I think this theory is very likely to be true. Because, of course, king and queen are already decided. And it very much so seems like chapter 4 is going to take place in the church. Because when Rudy and Noel were talking to each other, Rudy said he was going to go to church tomorrow. And that's one of those locations that's very likely going to be a dark world, right? So if we're going to go there tomorrow, right, that probably means that there's a dark fountain in there tomorrow. But of course, it being the night is when we set up the TV Dark World. So it really would seem like chess theory is accurate. People have said that it seems like the main boss's name in Chapter 3 is not going to be Rook, but Tenna. But here's one thing I have thought about. Antennas are just tall radio towers, right? So like a rook in chess, it's a tower, and the name for rook is also like one of the old names for the rook piece is also tower. So, is it possible that the way they're gonna manifest this Tenna character as a rook is that when he takes his Giga form, because Queen took her Giga form, so it's very possible the main bosses are gonna have Giga forms moving forward. It's possible that Tenna's Giga form is him taking control of like a massive radio tower, and like um, we'd be like flying on the thrash machine or something, like circling the radio tower, like trying to destroy the radio tower to stop Tenna's influence over us. Maybe that is possible. Um, Tenna could be very similar to Queen, where it's like she's technically the whole universe. She's technically he's technically a manifestation of the entire TV universe, right? Um, but like he'd show up to us in like a mobile form. Okay, this would be funny. What if Tenna is like the mind of the universe, sort of Unagami style, but like whenever he shows up, he's like rolled in on like on like one of those metal trays that people like roll TVs on in, and he's like a smiling face on a TV. That would be funny. That'd be funny, and he'd only move um, like he'd only move up and down. Like he'd only move left to right or up and down whenever he moves. Um, and then if the Dark World in Chapter 4 is going to be the Church, then Bishop, you know, would be an appropriate character for that. And I also think if the characters are going to move like chess pieces, it's just I just think like a character that just like every time he comes in and goes out, he goes like in a diagonal pattern, sort of like the DVD logo on the TV. He just moves around like that. I don't know. That just sounds like it'd be funny. I have suggested, and I don't have any evidence to suggest this right now, but I have suggested that the Bishop character might actually be Gerson Boom when we see him. That is possible. It could be Gerson Boom. That being said, even if he isn't, I think we are going to meet a Darkner Gerson Boom in the church world, as well as Darkner versions of all the other characters that were in the graves. Because I think it's going to be like a sort of church slash graveyard combo world. You know, that's what I think is going to happen. And so the enemies we fight might actually be like zombie or skeleton themed, like they're risen from the dead or something. That that could be interesting. Um, I don't know where Chapter 5 is going to take place, but if chess theory is correct, that's where we're going to finally meet the knight. And so I'd assume what happened is that in that part of the story, since I believe in Chris Knight, in that part of the story, I believe that like that entire chapter we're going to be facing like a false final boss or something. Um, like we're going to be facing someone else who's like not really the knight throughout the entire chapter, but after the boss fight with them, they're not actually the final boss of the chapter. As soon as we get up to the fountain, Chris like rips the soul out and tries to like destroy the soul or something, and so we gotta survive Chris basically. Um, and then after that is when some real shit's gonna go down. And with that being said, if chess theory is correct and Chris Knight is correct, and Toby Fox was planning on releasing 3, 4, and 5 at the same time, then Like we were not revealed Chris Knight too early. We were revealed it exactly when it needed to be. Just a light tease at the end of chapter 2, and then like some subtle build up throughout the next 3 chapters, and then the full on reveal at the end of part 5. And then I don't know who the pawn's going to be. I don't know who the pawn's going to be. I don't know who the pawn's going to be. I would also like to theorize where all the Dark Worlds are going to take place. So, Chapter 3 definitely is going to be like very television themed, but it also might be themed around the Dreamer's household a little bit. You know, like maybe there's a house area that's like the Dreamer's house, and this will be like a sort of main hub we can come back to whenever we want, or at least the very start of the adventure. Um, and then chapter 4, I do believe, is going to be the Church Dark World, and it will also tie into the graveyard nearby. I think that's what's going to happen. And then we have 3 more Dark Worlds to theorize. The bunker is almost definitely going to be one. So we have the bunker, right? Now we need 2 more. So, uh, I think it's very possible that Noelle's mansion is going to be a Dark World. Because, right? Because we never get to see it, right? And it feels like maybe we should get to see it, but we just never get to, we never get to see it. So it feels like, it does kind of feel like we're building up to going in there and seeing the mansion. Alternatively, it could just be a thing where Toby didn't want to make a mansion, you know? And I wouldn't blame the guy, you know? I wouldn't blame him. Mansions would be kind of hard to portray in that sense. So yeah, you have the mansion. And then sorry, I'm trying to think here for a minute. Um the flower shop could be one. That could be possible. I think if we don't get Flowey as the secret boss in part 3, we'll get him as a secret boss in whenever Asgore shows up. Um and then okay, I don't think the hospital's going to be one. It's very possible. It's very possible the hospital's going to be one. It's very possible IC's restaurant is going to be one. Very possible. Here's the thing. The final chapter might not even take place in a dark world. The final chapter might be the Roaring itself. And I kind of briefly discussed how I think the Roaring is going to be like this event where darkness comes forth and sort of like destroys hometown a lot, and it's like the darkness is leaking into hometown. Like that's what I think chapter 7's going to be. And so in that sense, I think that's that's what's going to happen, you know. And of course the Titans are going to come forth, whatever. One theory I did discuss briefly. I don't know if this will be the case, but it is possible that the Titans are going to be the secret bosses again. Like maybe the Neo Dark Fountain one that's eventually created is going to be able to bring the secret bosses back to life. And they're going to come back to life in the form of the Titans. And I think there is some subtle foreshadowing to this. Of course, Jovel says the true and Neo Chaos. Spamton has his Neo form. And the climax of Spamton's attack is actually him growing like super big and firing like shots at us. So is it possible that the Titans are going to be the secret bosses? And they're more so going to be like characters in Chris's army, right? Because they'll respect Chris for bringing forth the Neo Dark Fountain and giving them form. So Chris will be the final boss, of course, but every secret boss that we befriended, we're gonna have to fight again before we fight Chris. That is very possible. In that case, we might meet Gaster in part 6 instead of part 7. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's kind of what's going to happen. Okay. Other theory is, are Undyne and Alphys ever going to get together? I don't know. They did it in Undertale. I don't know if they need to in this alternate universe. I almost kind of ship Alphys and Asgore this time, you know? Uh I don't know. I kind of do just cuz I don't know, it's a different universe. We can do whatever the hell we want. Um Papyrus. There is one theory called Schrodinger's papyrus. And Schrodinger's papyrus is basically whether or not we did the genocide route. It depends on what we're going to see when we go and meet Papyrus. Like if uh if the game like reads our Undertale save file and figures out we did the pacifist route or a neutral route where we didn't kill Papyrus, it'll like we'll actually get to meet Papyrus and like play games with him or something. Um, Alternatively, if we ever did a genocide route, when we go and meet Papyrus, Sans is just gonna like show us his scarf, and he's gonna be like, "Yeah, seems like my brother isn't here today. That's your fault, isn't it?" Or something like that. Or he just like he just kind of scares us with that information that he knows about it in our Undertale save file. Like that would fit Sans' character so well, and I just think it would be a cool thing to do. The thing is, I think our meeting with Papyrus is going to be important somehow. And especially important if we're going to do the Gaster stuff. So with that, right? With that, I think Schrodinger's Papyrus could be a very interesting theory. Now, of course, that would basically confirm that Sans faked his death during the genocide route. And I don't think that's the case, right? Like, we heard the dusty noise when he walked off screen. And it's like, yeah, maybe we just stabbed his favorite ketchup packet, but like, I don't know, man. I think we killed Sans. I think we did. I'm pretty sure we did. Okay, here's a theory that kind of ties into Undertale a little bit. The soul colors are tied to Gaster. So, let's think about the characters who changed your soul color in Undertale. The characters who changed your soul color were Papyrus and Sans, who turned your soul blue. And they're clearly related to Gaster. Then you had Undyne, who is friends with Alphys, the royal scientist. Then you had Alphys herself, who turned your soul yellow. So you had blue, green, yellow, and then you had purple. Now, purple was done by Muffet, but at the same time, Muffet was hired as a mercenary by Mettaton, who, you know, he's also a secret boss. So, with that being said, all these characters tie to the Royal Lab in some way. Sans and Papyrus are tied to Gaster by family, and everyone else is tied to the Royal Lab in some way. Now we get into Deltarune, and we get to the secret bosses. The only secret boss that changed our heart color so far is Spamton, and it is very possible that the person he was talking to on the phone was Gaster. So, um, that being said, it does seem like Spamton was surprised when we did a big shot. So that is possible that that's actually like Gaster fiddling with our soul or something. Um, Now we'll get into the survey program. So I do think the survey program is Gaster trying to connect us, the player, to the world of Deltarune. Through the soul and the vessel. The problem is the vessel goes away. The vessel's gone. Bye-bye. Uh, who destroyed the vessel? Because I don't think Gaster would have. And people have pointed out that his voice like changes. His voice very much so changes when we when the vessel is destroyed. I had my own theory, Goner suicide theory, and Goner suicide theory deals with something that I think is going to play a role in Deltarune's story, even if it's dark, because it played a role in Undertale's story. I called my theory Goner suicide theory, where basically sometime, we don't know how much time, after Gaster created the vessel for us to control, the vessel did not like us having full control over them. So the vessel killed themselves. That's what I think happened. Now, with that, a very similar thing may happen to Chris in the future. And we see small hints of this. We see very small hints of this throughout the series. When Spampton tries to kill Chris, and he literally refers to kill it as killing Chris. You let your old pal Spampton kill you. Chris seems to go along with it, and is even distraught after we win the Spampton fight. I I just think there is going to be a very dark element to this story. I do, and I could be wrong about that. And part of me kind of hopes I'm wrong about that because it might be a lot to deal with. But I mean, they did kind of handle that idea respectfully in Undertale. I feel like they very clearly um, alluded to the idea that it was there, um, and so like yeah, it's a dark element of the story, but it may in fact be an element of the story. Like Chris might be so fed up with us controlling them that uh, to try to take they try to you know do something like that. That is very possible. I don't know how much that's going to play into the lore. I don't know how much, and I do think we are going to boss fight Chris at the end. I do think we are. Um, but yeah, that sounds dark. It sounds, but it also sounds like something that could be in play here. Now it could also be that something else destroyed our vessel. People have pointed that the Japanese text seems to line up with Chara. I don't know if Chara is gonna play a role in this. If these are the sands of papyrus from Undertale, then it's clear we didn't do a genocide route. But yeah, I don't know. It's I just don't think Chara's gonna play any role in this story. I think it will either be a character that like symbolically represents Chara, which would either be the vessel or Chris. And that's another thing. Chris could have purposefully. I don't think Chris would have purposefully connected themselves to an entity that takes full control over their body. But, maybe it's part of the Grand Night plan to cause the roaring and destroy the world. I don't think Chris is an innocent baby. And I also don't think the angel is like this big bad that the game is hyping them up to be. I think the angel is just the player again. Uh, that being said, I do think Chris is going to have a sympathetic backstory because, like, Spampton, he's a character that did very much so evil things, especially in the Snowgrave route. But he did have a very sympathetic backstory, and we almost wanted him to have something good happen to him. Like, maybe not become an all powerful angel and see past the clouds and stare into heaven, but we wanted him to be happy. We didn't like that that he got kicked out of Queen's Mansion and got abandoned by the phone guy. We didn't like that. I just don't think that justifies his actions. And I don't think the game is trying to say that that justifies his actions because Flowey, he was a character with a very sympathetic backstory, but he was still kind of the villain of the original game. So I think the Knight if it is Chris, is going to be something like that. A character who is in a very unfair situation that isn't portrayed as a good thing, but is also doing actions that are not portrayed as good things either. You know? So that's that's kind of my thoughts on a lot of the different Deltarune theories. Uh, as always, any one of these can be true. Any one of these can be false. Any one of these could be like something out of nowhere that we just don't know about yet. Um, as always, like all theories are valid until we get the right answer, right? Except the fucking gay theory. Like Toriel does not hate gay people. I I I will harm me if you continue to make that theory. I will harm me. I I do not like that theory. Please stop. It's bad. It's really bad. Please just don't. None of that. Nope. All gun.